of my shapers now. I've got 2 shapers that are set up, and they're dedicated to my normal stick and cope, which is the profile that you'll see on the inside edge of the frame of all my cabinet doors. I have a variety of different styles of profiles that I use on different doors, but my normal raised panel or flat panel door has a bead on it, and I will show you once I run this cut through here what that profile looks like. And I turn my dust collector on, and this is a really wonderful dust collector. You can hear how quiet it is. It has about 3,000 CFM, so it's a very powerful unit, yet it's unbelievably quiet. I might even do a video just on this dust collector, but that's not what this video is about. We're making a door, so now to make my stiles and rails, all right, well, in particular right now I'm going to work on the rails, which is the horizontal sections of a door, the top and bottom pieces of a door. All right, what I've done, I've made up this jig or sled or whatever you want to call it. This is what I use to hold down, clamp down and hold in tightly in place my rails when I run them through the cutter. This is something that you really can't run freehand. You've got to use some kind of a jig or a template or sled or some kind of a hold down to be able to perform this particular function. All right. So this is something I made. It's simply a piece of plywood. I used a piece of oak. It's 3/4 by about 3/16. It's rabbeted or dadoed into the bottom of the plywood here, and I've got screws in it. That rides in this groove here. That's on my shaper table, which is the same as the ones on my table saws. All right. This is something you can maybe be doing with a router table if you don't have a dedicated shaper. And that would be a different application, but it's kind of similar in theory as to what it does, all right? I'm merely right now going to put a cope on the 2 ends of this this rail, all right? So let's do that right now. All right, I'm going to turn the machine on. Again, you should be wearing eye protection, hearing protection, and a nose air respirator. I'm not, but you make sure you do. Show you. I went from a square edge like you see here to what you see now, which is the profile of my stick and cope. All right, this is the cope end of you call the ends a cope, and this side would be the sticking. All right, but yeah, I've got a bead in there, a reverse bead, and a tenon. All right. Okay, I'm ready to do the stiles on here and the rails, the sticking. Now normally I have a power feeder on here, but I'm going to show you, in this case I'm not going to use the power feeder, and I'm going to show you why. This has an opening in the fence here that's about 5 inches long, which is very close to the width, the length of my rails here. So the problem that happens here is if you're running this through here, it's going to want to get pulled into that space in there between the 2 fences. So what I've come up with, when I've got a short piece to do, I literally clamp it onto a longer piece using these top-mounted clamps. All right. These are a wonderful little thing. This is a particular company called True Grip. I'm sure there's several companies making them, but basically what I'm doing, okay, I've clamped these end to end, all right? So basically I'm giving myself a longer piece of wood to work with, that I don't have to worry I'm going to jump into that cavity, that space between my 2 fences. So you can see here, now the profile that I've just done on the two sides of the rails and the stiles. All right, let me take this clamp off here. Now you can see how nice and easy it made and safe. It enabled me to run a short piece here that would have otherwise been pulled into that space between my two fences. So yeah, this is going to be my two stiles, and this is my two rails. And they actually, now I'm not going to force it all the way in here, but they made up like this, all right? So now let's move over to our table saw, and we're going to rip these to 2.5 inches. All right, we're back at the table saw. Now, I could have ripped these into, before I did my stick and cope, I could have ripped these down to the 2.5 inch size, or maybe a little bit wider if I wanted, before I did my stick and cope. When I make up my doors, I know that my top and bottom rail are coming out of the same piece, and my left and right stiles are coming out of one piece. This way, and I mark them so they're the face before I run them through there, so I know which way they get orientated, the way they came out of my board. So if I have any, if down the road this piece of wood wants to start and cup or twist or something, because they both come out of the same piece, they're both going to react the same way down the road, in most cases. So if it's going to create a little bit of a bow, if this one gets a slight bow, that one will, which complements each other, all right? If I had ripped them in half, it's possible one might get spun, so one side of my door might have a cup in and the other might get a cup out, or a crown out, which would cause warping and twisting to a door. So for that reason, I like to run these in pairs like this and rip them afterward, and now I know that my top and bottom, if there's going to be any movement, they're going to be identical, top and bottom, left to right on my door. This further ensures that I know I'm going to get a door that's going to hopefully stay as flat and true as possible down the road. Now again, I'm going to raise my blade up. Okay. And I'm going to rip these now to 2.5 inches. Actually, I'm going 2 9/16. And I'll explain why in a moment. Okay, the reason I made these a 1/16 of an inch bigger than I really wanted them, which means because there's two of them, a 1/16 and a 1/16, that's an 1/8 of an inch. That means my door is going to be an 1/8 of an inch larger than I wanted. That allows me to go on my slider now and cut it square. I have up to a 1/16 of an inch on the top and a 1/16 on the bottom, left and right, to cut it to my exact size, square it up. If for any reason when I clamp up my door and it's slightly out of square, I have enough material now to square it up and still finish up at the size that I wanted. And I do want to finish these up at 2.5. So by adding that 1/16, after I square up the door and sides it, I'm still going to have my 2.5 inches. But that's just one of the little things that we do here that you might not know about. All right, so now I'm going to go on to the panel. And my panels are made out of 3/8 material. I don't like to use 1/4 inch because it's too flimsy, all right? It's, for one thing, if you order 1/4 inch material, in most cases, it's going to be less than a 1/4 of an inch. And my stick and cope machines are set up to give me a tenon that's exactly a 1/4 of an inch in thickness. So what I use is 3/8 material. It's got an MDF core, a white maple face and backing on it, which is a good 1/32 of an inch thick. It's a really good board, all right? It's great for painting, for solid color lacquers or whatever. So the problem is my tenon on here is only a 1/4 of an inch. So what I have to do now, I have to go over to my shaper, or you can use at home, just use a table saw I have to rabbet out the sides of this all the way around the perimeter, cut it down to 1/4 of an inch thickness, and I have to come in about 7/16, which is the depth of my tenon on here, all right? So I could do that on a table saw, but I already have a shaper set up to run that rabbet, so that's what I'm going to do next, all right? We've got our stiles and rails all set here. So let's go over to the shaper now and do the rabbet on the panel. All right, I'm over at my shaper now, and I'm going to get ready to run a rabbet around my panel. The panel's 3/8 of an inch thick, and I want to reduce it down to 1/4 of an inch. And I want the shoulder of the rabbet to be back 7/16 of an inch. I already have a straight cutter set up on the shaper. So here we go. I'm going to set up, and we're going to go ahead and run it right now. I'm going to turn the dust collector on. I'm going to turn the power feeder on. And now I'm going to turn the shaper on. Now what I want to do, I want to pre-sand the front and back of my panel. Once this door is put together, this is going to be recessed down from the face and the back, and I don't want to have to try to sand that afterwards. So it's a lot easier to sand it ahead of time rather than have to work with inside corners and all. I'm going to real quick just sand this before I put the panel and the door together. Okay, I'm ready to put my door together. I've got a couple of clamps already all set up here. Okay. And this is an old coffee cup. It's kind of rigid now. It's no longer a paper cup because there's been thousands and, well, maybe not thousands, but hundreds of doors put together using this cup. So what I do, I just put a little bit of glue. And the Type-On number 2 is perfect for interior use. I could use the Type-On number 1 for most of these projects, but the cost difference between 1 and 2 is only a couple dollars per gallon. To me, it's not worth trying to save a couple dollars per gallon. I go through maybe a couple hundred gallons a year, so that could be $300–400 a year, but I prefer to use just one glue instead of worrying about which one is 1, which is number 2, whatever. Now you see I am gluing both the male and female, the stick and the coat. A lot of guys just do one or the other. They'll put it mostly on. And I advocate the use of a brush. I want to make sure I've got 100% coverage on every square centimeter or millimeter of surface has glue on it, all right? You're not going to get that if you just take and use the tip of a glue bottle and just put a little bit on or spread it with your finger. You really want to use a brush, all right? And this brush I've had for, I want to say 25–30 years. I wash it out with warm water every time I'm done with it. Yeah, you notice how I cut a notch in the coffee cup front and back. That allows me to set the brush there and it doesn't roll around. And anyway, let's get back to assembling this door. I have glued up, let me come over here. You can see I've been very liberal with the glue. Okay, front all my surfaces, both sides, all right? I'm using a dead blow. There's some kind of rubber, a hard plastic. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but now a lot of times I'll not only do stick and cope, but I'll also have 2 dowel holes which I will drill on my horizontal boring machine. Thing is, this is just a sample door, and it's a small one at that. I feel I have enough glue surface here that this door is not going to go anywhere. You want to keep them parallel to the top and the bottom of the door. If you put them at an angle, you're going to pull the door out of square. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to check my diagonals. Okay, I've got 20 and 7/16 full. And I've got 20 and 7/16 full. So I know this door is perfectly square. And I can see that by the little bit of the gap around the perimeter here. Alright, I've got some 5/8 long pins that I'm going to just lock in this tenon here. Now I can break this door loose. Let me get the glue off the fronts and backs. You want to get as much of your excess glue off as possible now while it's wet. I find a damp rag with an awl is great for getting into these little nooks and crannies of your stick and cope. You just kind of make sure that the rag is over the point itself so you're not putting scratches in with the awl. But like I said, you want to get all that excess squeeze out now while it's wet. Now I want to emphasize that this door is going to be painted. So actually I'm spraying it with a lacquer, a conversion lacquer. If this were to be stained, I would not be using the damp rag as carelessly, which this is a little bit careless. I'm getting a lot of moisture on the panel. That would be reflected in the stain. When I put the stain on, you would see stain marks. It would make it get blotchy. So you want to be a lot more careful with the damp rag when you're and the glue squeezing out when you're doing a door that's going to be stained. For all intents and purposes, this door is done. But what I want to do right now, I like to clamp up the tenon and let them sit about 20 minutes to half an hour. Alright, this enables me, you can see here, there's a little bit of squeeze out coming now, because that little bit of the tenon, the sticking on the back panel is only 1/8 of an inch thick. So it could be up in the air a little bit. And I want to make sure I'm real tight looking on the ends of my doors. When I go to spray them, I really don't want to see little gaps in there. So I'm clamping that down on the top and bottoms, which is why you're seeing that little bit of squeeze out. Before I put the clamp, you wouldn't have seen that. So this door is going to sit for about 20 minutes to half an hour, and then I could run it through my wide belt sander to finish sanding it, and then I'll square it up and I'll sand it and put a brake over around the edges, and this door will be ready for spray. But that is how you make a flat panel door, okay? this is the point that, now I have a white belt sander I'm going to send this to. You would probably just be using a disc sander or a belt sander now to finish sanding this door. And naturally you can cut it to size, exact size on your table saw, a radial arm saw, track saw, whatever you're using for cutting and ripping and squaring things up. But you get the point. This is how we arrive at getting a flat panel door ready to go. So there's no sense me now showing any more video as far as sanding it, because what I'm doing here, you're not going to, the average guy at home is not going to have a white belt sander. You might have a smaller drum sander, but whatever method you have for finish sanding, there you go. I was more or less trying to show you how I build the doors, and you've seen it. And that's how I make a flat panel door, all right? And it's pretty nice. It's a good method. You can see there's a little bit of a gap around the perimeter. With the MDF door, you don't really have to allow too much for expansion. If this was solid wood, I would allow a little bit more, a good 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch for expansion, contraction. I normally, the bigger the door, the bigger the gap. I normally allow about 1/8 of an inch per foot of panel, all right? So this panel is up to a foot wide, 12 inches wide. It would get 1/8 of an inch. If I go to 2 feet, then I'd have 1/4 of an inch. But again, I don't like to make cabinet doors 24 inches, panels 24 inches wide. That equates to a 28-inch door, and I don't like, in that case, I'll split it and make 2 doors rather than have a door that big. Get this, I'm going to go clean up my brush now. This little bit of glue that's left in there is not worth saving. It's up to about that much. To start out, this cup was about this high. It gets cut down, but like I said, it's hard as a rock. It's got so much glue inside and out on it. But yeah, if you don't wash, I wash this out with soap and warm water, and that enables me to keep this brush and use it over and over again. It is a very good, it's an expensive painter's brush, and I want to say it's about a $15 brush, but I've been using it for 20-some years, so it's maybe 50 cents a year this has cost me. It's better than if the throwaway brushes, the bristles are not good enough to spread the glue. The bristles come out, they mix in with the glue, and it's better to spend the extra money and get a quality brush and just keep washing it, and you can use it over and over. Okay, I've just washed my brush out. Basically, all I'm doing, I have one of those wall-mounted things with the antibacterial soap in them in my bathroom. So what I do, I just squirt a couple blobs, and I just kind of really work it down in there. I completely rinse it out, and I do it again. I do about 3 or 4 times, and because if you leave glue on here, after a while, it's going to build up, and the bristles are going to get shorter and shorter because of all that buildup. But you can see by doing a decent job and making sure it's cleaned out. Like I said, I have been using this brush literally for, I want to say 25 to 30 or more years, all right? And I've done thousands of doors with this brush. So people say, it's cheaper just to get those little throwaway things. Not really, because it's like $10 now, I think, for 20 brushes, the throwaways, and they're not that good. They're not stiff enough, the bristles, to really work the glue in there. And like I said, the bristles come out, and there's nothing worse than, you know, getting a door together and then seeing a bristle sticking out of your glue joint here, you know, which happens, all right? So, yeah, I like to use a quality brush, all right? Same as you would for painting. You use a quality brush for painting, use a quality brush for glue, all right? All right, I've already gone on the table, so and I squared this door up. I didn't videotape it. It's not really necessary just to see me ripping it, all right? But now what I'm going to do, and I went over it with the disc sander, all right? I did go through my white belt sander 2 passes, and then I went over it with my disc sander, and now I'm going to take what I call my breakover router bit, which is just a small round over, a small radius, and I'm going to run around the perimeter edges of the door. Okay, that's it. what I did, I just broke those sharp edges off around the edge. I don't like a sharp edge. I like a little bit of an eased edge, all right? But that's your basic door, all right? That's how I make my flat panel doors for the most part. Excuse me. Yeah, see why you should be wearing a mask? Now I've got dust down in my throat. So yeah, make sure you wear a mask when you're doing anything that creates sawdust, all right? Shouldn't be breathing that stuff. So this is ready for paint or lacquer or whatever. Okay. So yeah, that's the story. All right. Hope you enjoyed it.